Hey guys, and welcome back to the Movie-Club Emporium. And this week, man, we're talking about dads. So I had to put my dad's sweater on. We're talking about the brand new M. Night Shyamalan film, Trap. Now, number one, first and foremost, whenever a new Shyamalan movie comes out, I know that it is something that is going to be needing to be talked about. Sometimes it's a great thing, and sometimes it's a really bad thing. So I'll be curious to know your thoughts on this one. Plus, man, it's so nice to have uh, Josh Hartnett back in movies. You know, of course, uh, he kind of had his resurgence there in Oppenheimer, which he's fantastic in. And if you caught our August stream on our Twitch channel, Nick and I discussed back to school movies. We talked about The Faculty and how he's really good in that despite that god awful haircut he had in the 90s. And so I was super excited to see. And then the just when you're given the smallest of synopsis for this movie, man takes his daughter to this big concert, pop star concert. It turns out it's a trap to catch a serial killer. Oops a doodle. Our dad is a serial killer. What's he gonna do? That, on paper, and for the first hour of this movie, is really a great setup for a film. This, man, coming off the heels of Beetlejuice. I will say, I was less mad with this film than I was Beetlejuice. Honestly, more frustrated than with Beetlejuice because I don't know how many times I've said his name now. He's come and gone. Because that first hour of this movie, for the most part, there are some qualms I have with it, is really great. And then it goes off the Shyamalan law rails real quick into the last like 50 minutes, 40 minutes. But yeah, Josh Hartnett is great in this movie for the most part. See, they do this weird thing depending on what we need him to be, where either he is like grade A, like Dexter, smart, 3 steps ahead, prepared for blending into real life. And then, for no reason, his character will suddenly become the Don Knotts of serial killers, where he's just like tripping and bumbling into things, and like completely like letting the facade slip at a moment's notice. It's so weird. Through the whole movie, he gives a great performance, but it's just because of this weird bounce between like Goofy and Gallant esque. There you go, kids. You know who Goofus and Gallant are? Like it's really hard to kind of follow him. And then also, for the first half of the movie, you are with him and his like trying to find a way out of there. So you kind of weirdly, much like a show like Dexter, you're kind of in a way rooting for this guy. And then when I won't say it's the twist because this movie doesn't really have the Shyamalan twist, and if there's something at the end that I guess it might supposedly be the twist, and if it is, it's not that big of a twist. But just to where after so long, something when we finally get out of the concert, and you're like, okay, this thing's wrapping up, and then I had to pause it and was like, there's still like 40 minutes. There's 40 minutes left? Like it. We'll get to it. So, yes, Josh Hartnett is a loving father who scored him and his daughter. And his daughter's at a weird time. Like she's drifted away from her friends, like her close friend. And her like nosy Nelly of a mother who are in this movie for way more than they should be. Almost for comedic effect at one point in this horror film about whatever. takes him to this Taylor Swift-esque concert with Lady Raven, who is played by you're gonna believe this, Shyamalan's daughter. And you know what? I say you don't believe this. I don't know if she really is into music. She sounds great. She looks the part. I thought she was fantastic. Up until the part that irks me, we'll get to. Um, and yeah, it's just him finding out and then trying to keep his cool, trying to find different ways out of the building. But the first thing that handicaps this movie is that it's PG-13 and it is bound by PG-13 law. So much so that we refer to him as the Butcher. He's the Butcher. And yet the man, if you've seen the trailers, the man on his phone that he has locked in a basement, he's murdering with carbon monoxide. Because what? Like, that's not a butchery tactic. Also, this movie desperately needs you to see how, like, you need to see him maybe in flashbacks or whatever be this serial killer, because otherwise he's just kind of playing quirky dad with an anger problem. Like, he's having a problem suppressing, like it's a falling down s scenario while he's at the Taylor Swift concert and trying to like keep his cool for his kid. When he doesn't want to be there, it's like taking your kid to the mall at Christmas. Like, the kid's enjoying it, but like you're having like a battle of wills, because you don't get to see him be truly evil. Even when finally the facade fully falls off and you are seeing him at his most diabolical, it's mostly just like him holding a knife, that he won't stop sitting down. So yeah, the rating kills this movie. I was so surprised how to see this actress and then to see how little of a role she plays in the movie. Hayley Mills, the great Hayley Mills. You kids probably don't know. I grew up with a mother who loved Pollyanna and the OG Parent Trap. Like, I know who Hayley Mills is. And to see her pop up was fantastic. I was like, oh, why Hayley Mills? She comes to nothing in this movie, and honestly, and kind of meanly, it feels like, well, we want this female FBI profiler, but we kind of want Malcolm McDowell. Oh, Hayley Mills. I mean, if you close your eyes, she kind of sounds like Malcolm McDowell. What if we just get her? Like, when I think of the psychiatrist character in Split and how much she kind of has a part to play in that movie, this like pseudo Loomis, Dr. Loomis, comes to nothing except for to tell you how awful the Butcher is, because we're certainly not going to show you. This is a PG-13 movie. So yeah, the stuff at the... But even in that context, watching him like trying to figure out how to get out of this, arena surrounded by cops, he gets ready to do something, and the psychiatrist over the walkie-talkie, because he has one, and he's got his hands on the walkie-talkie so he can hear what they're saying. The minute he's about to do something, she's like, "Now you look out, because he'll probably try to do this." And he's like, "Oh crap, that's what I was gonna do. I gotta do something else. Meanwhile, I gotta take care of my kid." All of that, again, all the stuff with the daughter at the concert is pretty good. It's a pretty solid little flick, man. Even a way that he gets a way to get them backstage, to get them to meet Lady Raven, and ends up using her to get out of the building unchecked, because he basically confronts her behind stage in her locker room, and he's like, "This is who I am. You see that guy? He's gonna die if you don't get us out of here. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And we get out of the arena. So I'm like, okay, where are we going from here? Because we should be wrapping it up. Oh no, there's still like 45 minutes left. Um, and then the movie, the first turn of the movie, which is where I immediately like one of the wheels falls off, is Lady Raven becomes the main character. We've been following Josh Hartnett and watching the movie through his eyes for an hour. Suddenly she becomes the main character. Not only that, but she kind of becomes like the hero of the movie for a bit, which is like, I would like to think that if I was a multi-millionaire pop star, I'd be willing to walk into the home of a serial killer and lay my life down for a stranger I see on a screen. Like charming his family in order to like steal his phone and lock myself in the bathroom so I can try to set the man free. And you're like, this is kind of dumb. Like, why is she staying there? She's like, no, don't call the police, driver. Take me to their house. I want to see where he lives. Um, we made you. Would you like to eat some cake? And so like she becomes like the main character of this movie for a bit, and then that's where the full like his family sees him for who he really is, especially with his wife. And you have a scene where that is kind of the twist of the movie is he escapes police custody, he's getting all this stuff, he escapes downtown, he gets out of downtown, the kids are gone now, the wife is home. She does, and he comes back for her, and that's where he just like won't stop. Like, he's like, I got this knife. Look, hang on, don't forget, I have this knife, and I'm going to kill you with it, wife of mine. Listen, and so that's where you find out the twist, if you will, for this movie, because is that the reason the police knew that the butcher was going to be at this concert is because his wife notified them. Because he was having late nights, so she followed him one time to an abandoned home. And she snuck into that home and found a table and a chair. And it was just a place where he would go to sit and think. He even says, I didn't kill anybody in that house. It was just where I planned things. So she sees that he has a thinking room. And so immediately goes, oh, my husband must be a serial killer. And she tells him, she's like, and if they prove me wrong, oh, no harm, no foul. And you're like, but that's dumb. Like, if you want to do like the wife discovered something, okay, there's a great novella Stephen King wrote called A Good Marriage, where a man dies and his wife is out cleaning the garage after his death, trying to get his things in order. And she's like moving a workbench and kicks something underneath and finds like a locked tool chest, breaks into it and finds that, oh, her husband might have been a serial killer. Like that's and then her having to deal with the grief of the loss of her husband with pretty much a lot of proof that says he was a serial killer. That's interesting. But no, so she is just like, he might be cheating on me. He might be butchering co-eds. I don't know, but I know he's going to this concert. Hello, please. And so I was like, that's dumb. And then he is apprehended Um, because he's like, I'm going to murder you, wife of mine, because you've turned me in. And she's like, yeah, that's fine. But before then, would you like to split this piece of pie with me? And he's like, you know what? It was I like pie, so. And she's like, okay, cool. I keep the forks down here under the sink. And so he eats the pie real fast, and then he notices there's all this powder on the plate. And so I was like, oh no, she poisoned him. Awesome, she killed him. That's a good twist, Shyamalan. That's good. That is not what happens. She just like covered it with like his knockout powder. That doesn't knock him out, but just makes him trip balls. To the point that a really underdeveloped part of the movie is that every once in a while he sees this old woman, and you're like, is that one of his victims? Who is this old woman? And then you have to have Haley Mills pop in. She's like, hello, that must be his mother. She was being his first victim. Bye, movie. I apologize for the accent. I extremely apologize for the accent. Um, and so like that ghost starts talking to him while like he's out of the loop with this powder, and he starts just kind of blindly walking toward the front door. And I was like, oh my god, he's gonna walk right into like a hail of gunfire. Oh, you know what? Okay, I'm fine with that. No, he gets tased, and they arrest him, and then like they're carrying him out of the front house, and they're like, get back, he's a monster. Oh, he has OCD, so let him pick that bike up. It's fine. There's nothing metallic on that bike that you could take and use as a lockpick later. None whatsoever. Oh, he wants to hug his kid? Oh, yeah, let him touch his kids. That's fine. And then ends with this weird, like, almost sequel setup that is dumber than dirt. Um, so, again, I was more frustrated because I feel like a couple more passes on the script might have, like, ironed some of that out. It almost felt like he had this great idea. Serial killer trapped at a concert. He's got to get out, but he has his kid. What's he going to do? And so we were making that movie, and then they went, okay, and then he leaves the arena. Oh man, this needs more. This needs to be longer. We'll wing it. Let's just go. And whenever a Shyamalan movie feels like, let's just wing it, it it doesn't usually work out. You know, oh my goodness, something happens, and one day all these people start killing themselves. And then what? I don't know. Like, is it truth? You know, if the plot ends in a question mark, um, the second half of your movie ends in a question mark. It's not good. Um, so I feel like, for me, I am kind of now at the point where I kind of want Shyamalan to do more adaptations. I mean, Knock at the Cabin. Um, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And even as somebody who really likes that book, and I know some people who like the book didn't like the changes he made from that book into the movie, I think it works far better as a movie than the way the book faithfully adapted would have. I want to see him do more stuff like that because I feel like he has these great ideas, but they don't themselves transfer all the way through to a 100-minute movie, to where at the end we just got everything has to be overly complicated. Old, weird premise, it's going along, overly complicated. Like it just kills the momentum of the movie, and it was very disheartening, especially after it was a rough weekend, man, because Beetlejuice, and this was just like, man, I really need a good movie. Um, so it's not the worst Shyamalan, but it's not. It's a very frustrating Shyamalan, and sometimes that's worse than just insane Shyamalan because you can see a lot of good here and maybe even great at some point, but we just man just step on our shoelaces and just bite it face first into the end of this movie. But next week, I am excited, genuinely excited, because we are talking about the new film Cuckoo. I've heard not a lot of things, but just kind of people being like, "That's really weird and fun." It's going to be our second Dan Stevens movie of the year, and I really loved Abigail, so I'm excited to see how this compares to that. If it compares to that, or if it's just something else that's really fun, because I love Dan Stevens, and super looking forward to that. And then don't forget, the end of this month, Nick and I over on our Twitch channel are going to be breaking down the entire Crow franchise. So I know some of you, if you followed long enough, you're thinking, "Hey, Jason, hey bro." If you're my kid, you're like, "Hey bro, where's your thoughts on the brand new Crow movie?" Well, it's gonna be over there on our Twitch channel because we're reviewing The Crow, City of Angels, Salvation, Wicked Prayer, the comic book, those kick-ass soundtracks, those terrible Sega Genesis games, and we're also going to be talking about in great detail, I imagine, our thoughts on the brand new adaptation remake of The Crow with Bill Skarsgård. So you do not want to miss that. That is over at our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Movie-Club Emporium. As far as this video goes, again, next week we were talking about Cuckoo. Let me know what you guys thought about this one in the comments below. What's your favorite Shyamalan movie? Do you think this is upper tier Shyamalan, or is this like low tier Shyamalan? What's your thoughts on The Village? Where was the switch? Some people like The Village. I kind of like The Village. Some people hate The Village. Or just kind of give me your rankings of Shyamalan. Maybe that could be a possible thing we talk about. Make sure you do that in the comments below. And until next time, when we are talking about Cuckoo, I will see you guys then. Bye.